see at our hot glass demonstrations, they've got a big furnace filled with a pool of molten glass. And us flame workers, our heat source is a torch. And since we don't have that pool of molten glass to work from, we typically start our process from pre-made rods or tubes of glass. And I'm going to make a solid sculpture, so I'll use solid rods for this demo. But I often make hollow forms as well, and those I simply start from hollow tubing. Now the torch, this thing is running on natural gas and oxygen. And I've got it cranked all the way up right now, so the temperature of this flame is right up around 4,000 degrees Fahrenheit. And I know that sounds like a pretty outrageous temperature to most folks, but believe it or not, I am perfectly comfortable back here. There is so much oxygen pushing its way through the torch that it really helps to focus that heat. And it keeps the heat very well contained within the flame, and it keeps pushing the heat away from me. So it's a lot more comfortable back here than most folks would ever imagine it could be when they hear that crazy flame temperature. Now the glass I'm working with, I mentioned these are solid rods, and they're rods of a type of glass that's known as borosilicate. I know a lot of folks come here to the Glass Museum under the impression that glass is glass, and it's all made from the same materials, it all has the same sort of characteristics to it, but that isn't really true. There are actually tens of thousands of different recipes for glass out there in the world, and just like a recipe for a batch of cookies, if you start changing ingredients in a glass recipe, you will get very different characteristics to the glass. And what is particularly notable about this glass here is that it tolerates temperature change a lot better than most other glasses. Now, most glasses, if you heat or cool them too quickly or just unevenly, they're very likely to crack. But this glass holds up really well. There's a little bit of boron oxide added to this that really helps with that tolerance for temperature change. And the reason this glass was developed to have that sort of a characteristic is that it was originally developed to be used for making scientific laboratory apparatus. So things like distillation units or condensers, reactors, even test tubes and beakers. And as you can imagine, in the science lab, you're heating and cooling materials really quickly, and you really can't afford to have your equipment breaking as you're doing that. So this glass really has been crucial to a whole lot of scientific research and discovery over the last century. And it's also really handy for artistic work, since I don't have to worry so much about the glass cracking just because of changing temperatures quickly. It really frees me up to focus on other details of what I need to accomplish. So pretty handy stuff for science and for art. I'm sure you all are wondering what it is I'm trying to make here, so get you clued in. This is going to be a penguin. So the core of the body of the penguin is sort of a teardrop shape, and I've just added the tail feather area on there, and I add the wings next, and I'll continue to add material to make all these details.
Should we tell them now?
And as I do that, I've got to make sure I'm attaching the glass when it's at the right temperature. If either piece of glass isn't quite hot enough, when I try to stick them together, they won't fuse properly, and they'll end up falling apart as the piece cools down. Well, to judge temperature, I don't have a thermometer for that. I really don't have a hand to hold a thermometer anyways. So I judge temperature by watching how the glass is glowing and sort of feeling out how it's moving. So as it gets hotter, the glass will continue to glow more and more brightly, and eventually it's so hot, it almost looks like the glass is glowing white, and that's when I attach it. That white hot stage, this glass is pretty close to 3,000 Fahrenheit.